So let's discuss this question. Is sauerkraut good for your skin? I mean, we're all after good, easy, inexpensive ways to improve skin health, right? And other aspects of health. Well, first of all, let's talk about sauerkraut as a fermented food, not the kind of stuff that's in brine and vinegar that you see in most grocery stores. You want the stuff that's fermented. Now, you can ferment it yourself. It's very easy. You do need to shred the cabbage, and you can either ferment it with the microbes that are resident on the surface naturally, provided it's organic, or you can add a starter culture. And here's an easy trick for you. You can just get some commercially fermented sauerkraut. It should say something like contains live cultures or fermented naturally or something along those lines to let you know it wasn't just shredded cabbage in brine and vinegar. It was fermented. In other words, it took days to weeks to allow the microbes to proliferate and then break down some of the nutrients in the sauerkraut. So here's an easy trick. Buy some commercially fermented sauerkraut, take some of the brine, some of the liquid, and pour it into your shredded cabbage, and then let it ferment. It'll go faster that way. If you allow the microbes that are naturally resident on the surface to ferment it, it'll take about a month, 3 to 4 weeks. But if you start with something added, like from a commercially fermented sauerkraut or starter culture you purchased, it'll ferment more like in a week or so, maybe a little longer. And taste it. You want to make sure it tastes like sauerkraut, and you can always add a little vinegar and salt, of course. But anyway, does sauerkraut, naturally fermented, by whatever means you get it, improve skin? Well, I've talked about this in the context of how fermented foods are good for the skin, but it's a little complicated, a little bit convoluted. So I thought I'd repeat it again. So let's say you do buy some sauerkraut, or you make some sauerkraut, and you consume it. And the microbes that ferment cabbage, sauerkraut, these are species like Leuconostoc mesenteroides or Pediococcus pentasaceus. These are microbes that generally do not take up residence in the gastrointestinal tract. So how can they be beneficial? Well, by some means, those microbes that pass through as part of your sauerkraut feed other microbes, and those are the ones you want. These are species like Akkermansia or Faecalibacterium. Those are the ones that produce fatty acids good for your skin, especially butyric acid. So remember this, healthy skin is acidic skin. Unhealthy skin is less acidic skin. So someone who has a lot of acne or psoriasis or rosacea or a lot of blemishes or a lot of redness typically has a skin pH more towards the 5 and higher range. That's more towards the alkaline range or less acidic range. Someone with healthy skin tends to have a pH more like 4.5. And recall that the pH scale is logarithmic. So the difference between 4 and 5 is tenfold. It's a big difference. So even a drop of 1 unit in pH, say from 5.5 to 4.5, is a huge skin advantage. Well, so you eat that fermented food, it feeds beneficial microbes like that Faecalibacterium akkermansia that in turn produce the butyric acid that goes to your skin and it acidifies the skin. And when the skin becomes more acidic, it discourages bad bacteria like Staphylococcus aureus and encourages beneficial microbes like Staphylococcus epidermidis. That may sound like a small difference, but it's a big difference. People who have those skin rashes, whether it's rosacea or psoriasis or seborrhea or eczema, have a lot of Staphylococcus aureus colonizing their less acidic skin. So just getting a fermented food like sauerkraut helps you acidify your skin. And other foods also, kefir, yogurts, not the stuff in the store, right? The stuff you make yourself. Other fermented vegetables. This should be very easy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please refer to my Super Gut book. That's where I tell you how to ferment things. But there's lots of other resources on how to ferment vegetables. Or you can just buy them pre-fermented. But if you do that, if you buy pre-fermented, say sauerkraut or fermented pickles or other fermented foods, I like to leave them on the kitchen counter at room temperature for about 48 hours because part of commercial production is to go as fast as possible, right, for maximum revenue and maximum profit. Well, you want to let it ferment longer, so I like to let it sit out about 48 hours. Nothing bad will happen. You want to keep it covered, of course, but let it ferment another 48 hours or so to increase the microbial count and thereby increase the potential benefits on you, your general health, and on your skin.